The all-American nightmare. For 2 years, a teenage girl was stalked, tormented, and told to take her own life by a mysterious digital phantom. When the FBI finally unmasked the culprit, the discovery was more terrifying than any stranger. The stalker was her own mother. This is the story of how a protector became a predator and why she did it. Our story begins by ridiculing the very idea of a perfect life. In the small, tight-knit town of Beale City, Michigan, a place where everyone knows everyone and life follows a comfortable, predictable rhythm, Lauren and Owen were the golden couple. Lauren was the living embodiment of a high school dream, bubbly, popular, and a talented multi-sport athlete who excelled at both basketball and cross-country. Her life was a whirlwind of activity, constantly bouncing between what the source material describes as team hangouts, team kickbacks, parties, and family dinners. She was a pillar of the school's social scene. Owen was her perfect counterpart, equally well-liked, kind, and a gifted athlete in his own right. But the disturbing evidence showed this wasn't just a simple high school romance. It was a deep and serious bond that stood in stark contrast to the fleeting relationships around them. As the original podcast noted, most high school flings lasted a few weeks, maybe through a school dance before fizzling out. Lauren and Owen were different. He had first asked her out in the 8th grade, and by high school, they were inseparable. Their relationship was so foundational that it merged their families into a single, cohesive unit. Weekend barbecues became joint affairs, with both sets of parents cheering from the same sidelines at sporting events, creating a bubble of communal support and warmth. They were woven into the very fabric of each other's lives. It leads to an uncomfortable question. What kind of force could possibly shatter a bond so seemingly perfect and deeply rooted in a community's heart? The ghost in the machine. You might ridicule the threat of a single, anonymous text, dismissing it as a cruel but simple prank that would eventually fade. The assault began without warning in the year 2020, a sudden and brutal intrusion. The first message was a single, brutal word: ugly. Soon, another followed: too ugly for anyone to love you. But the disturbing evidence proved this was no simple prank. It was a relentless campaign designed to break her spirit. The anonymous sender crafted a narrative of deceit with texts like, "Everyone knows Owen's cheating on you, and he's just with you because he pities you." The cruelty escalated from high school taunts to something far more sinister, attacking Lauren's character by calling her a bad girlfriend, a bad athlete, and a bad person. The ghost in her phone began urging Lauren to take her own life, insisting with cold certainty that the world would be better off. The attack was a rapid-fire assault with dozens, then hundreds of messages. According to Lauren, she sometimes received up to 12 threatening messages a day, turning her phone from a tool of connection into a weapon against her. She was plunged into a state of confusion and fear, scanning her circle of friends for any sign of a hidden enemy, any hint of betrayal. For months, this digital ghost waged its war. Then, as suddenly as it began, the harassment stopped. A period of complete and unsettling silence fell over their lives. This brings us to an uncomfortable question. Who held this level of vicious, obsessive hatred for a teenage girl? And why did they suddenly go silent? Was it remorse? Or were they simply gathering strength for an even more terrifying storm? The eye in the crowd. It's easy to ridicule the idea of a stalker as a distant, random troll hiding in a basement miles away. After a few months of silence, the harassment campaign reignited in 2021, but this time it was different. The disturbing evidence was undeniable. The stalker was not distant. They were an omniscient observer, embedded deep within Lauren's world. The messages now contained impossibly specific details that turned general fear into acute paranoia. The sender started calling her by her private nickname, Lo, a name used only by her innermost circle of family and friends, a clear and chilling signal of their proximity. The surveillance was constant. They sent texts commenting on the exact clothes she wore to class on a particular day, or how she had styled her hair. The watcher's gaze extended onto the basketball court. After her games, the stalker would text her immediately, mocking her performance. The source material specifies they taunted her when she didn't score enough points and criticized her for sitting on the bench, demonstrating they were physically present, watching her every move. They even knew when she missed Owen's football games, twisting it into proof that she was a bad girlfriend who didn't care about him. Lauren and Owen were convinced this had to be someone at the school, someone who saw them every single day, a peer, a friend, an ex, an enemy. The trust she had in her community began to curdle into suspicion. This forces an uncomfortable question. How could a stranger know her most private details? Or was this a stranger at all? The puppet master's game. One might ridicule this as just teenage bullying, a nasty but simple attempt to cause drama. But the disturbing evidence showed a level of sophisticated psychological warfare far beyond the scope of a typical high school grudge. The stalker's goal was not merely to harass, it was to methodically dismantle Lauren and Owen's relationship. They deployed devious and calculated traps. In one instance, the sender told Lauren that Owen was meeting them at a Halloween party she wasn't invited to, a lie crafted to make her feel isolated before coldly telling her to take your own life. The manipulation grew even more sinister when the focus turned to Owen. They made him a manipulative offer. They would reveal their identity if, and only if, he would text them the words, "I hate her." Desperate to unmask their tormentor, Owen played along. The stalker immediately screenshotted the message and sent it directly to Lauren, a digital trophy. The source material reveals another dark layer. After the stress caused Lauren and Owen to break up, Owen confided in the texter that the harassment was making him miserable, even giving him thoughts of self-harm. The stalker screenshotted that vulnerable confession and sent it to Lauren to twist the knife even further. They tried to fight back by blocking numbers, but the sender would just pop back up with a new one. Through it all, one strange clue emerged. The stalker consistently typed "care less" as one word, careless. This raises an uncomfortable question. What kind of mind meticulously plans not just to hurt, but to systematically destroy a relationship from the inside out? The protector. We are conditioned to ridicule any doubt against a mother's love. We see a protector, a fierce advocate. For over a year, Lauren carried this burden alone. It was an isolating secret she shouldered in silence as she tried to navigate the emotional minefield of high school. The constant attacks wore her down to the point where, in her own words, she didn't want to even go to school anymore. Finally, in December of 2021, the psychological pressure became too much to bear. She turned to the person she trusted most, her mother, Kendra. Kendra was not just a parent. She was Lauren's coach, a constant presence, running drills and cheering from the sidelines. When Lauren revealed the abuse, Kendra responded with fury. But here is the disturbing evidence. Her response was an elaborate and masterful performance. She immediately sprang into action, presenting the principal, Dan Boyer, with a binder containing over 50 pages of printed-out messages. She had meticulously documented everything. She even provided the school with her own detailed theories and a list of potential suspects mentioned in the source material. A classmate who had a crush on Lauren, kids who were bitter about not making the varsity basketball team, and even a rumor about someone who had hacked into Lauren's school computer to steal homework. She was positioning herself as the lead detective and the family's fierce protector. When the school stalled, she pushed for the police, handing over every name and every detail she had collected. This makes us ask an uncomfortable question. Is this the fierce love of a protector or the calculated performance of something far more sinister? Chasing a phantom. It's easy to ridicule a small-town police force, to assume they can't handle a complex cybercrime case. The local sheriff's department took the case with the utmost seriousness. The sheriff himself came to the school to interview everyone involved. The disturbing evidence, however, was that they were completely outmatched. The stalker had created fake social media accounts using real friends' photos to gain trust, and had covered their tracks so well that there were no initial names, faces, or smoking guns. The investigation became mired in bureaucratic delays. Police filed warrants for Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, performing a full data dump on the victims' phones, but the process of getting information back from tech giants can take months. A single improperly filled form could restart the entire frustrating process. The perpetrator exploited this delay, hiding behind a virtual private network, or a VPN, a tool that effectively turns a user into a digital ghost. It scrambles a device's location, making the signal bounce from one fake location to another every few seconds. The stalker was so confident that they even taunted Lauren after the police were involved. They sent messages claiming to have inside knowledge of the investigation, saying things like, "The cops said it's not us. They're telling Mr. Boyer it's not me." This brazen act of gaslighting was designed to make their victims feel hopeless, which leads to the uncomfortable question, were they dealing with a teenage prankster or a technologically savvy criminal mastermind who could outsmart the law indefinitely? The House of Whispers. We ridicule the classic horror movie cliché, the idea that the real danger is already inside. We assume threats are external. The local police, unable to penetrate the stalker's digital fortress, escalated the case to the Federal Bureau of Investigation. The big guns had arrived. The FBI's elite cyber experts, trained to, in the words of the source, track down criminals who think that they can't be found, immediately saw through the illusion. They knew they were likely hunting for a single criminal. For months, they meticulously worked backwards, sifting through terabytes of data and following digital footprints that most people don't even know exist. Then came the disturbing evidence. In April of 2022, they found what they were looking for: the exact device and the exact location. They untangled the web of bounce signals and proxy tunnels, following the digital breadcrumbs back across the world. The discovery was a bombshell. The signal was not coming from a rival school, a different town, or even a different state. After a year of terror, the FBI traced the stalker to Lauren's own address. A global manhunt had shrunk to the four walls of a single suburban home. The investigation immediately pivoted, and police began to question everyone who had access to the house: family, friends, neighbors, and according to police reports, even an older sibling. The cliché was real, forcing the most uncomfortable question yet. The phantom was in the house, but which family member was the ghost? The face of the betrayer. You could ridicule Kendra's attempts to help the police, seeing them as the clumsy theories of a concerned parent. When investigators informed her the messages came from her house, she immediately pointed her finger at a student from school. Police dismissed it. She then pivoted, suggesting her own husband, Sean, might be the culprit, though she offered no plausible motive. But the disturbing evidence revealed this was calculated deception. Her final, shocking accusation was against her own daughter, claiming Lauren had staged the entire 2-year ordeal for attention. The investigators already knew she was lying. A previously overlooked detail now became the smoking gun. Kendra had worked in information technology. She possessed the exact technical expertise needed to pull this off. When police arrived with a warrant to seize all her devices, they found her calmly taking out the trash. An officer warned her not to skip town and even suggested the family get therapy, a clear signal they knew the problem was internal. They pulled her husband aside and revealed everything, leaving him, in the words of the source, flawed. The final damning piece of the puzzle came from the device itself. The FBI had traced the messages to the exact iPhone that had been sending them, and that phone belonged to Kendra. It all leads to a single uncomfortable question. How could the person leading the search for the monster be the monster herself? A mother's shadow. It's tempting to ridicule the motive, to search for a simple answer like jealousy. The question was no longer who, but the far more chilling question of why. The disturbing evidence showed the reasons were twisted, complex, and deeply pathological. The prosecution developed a powerful theory, with one expert in the source material calling it a version of cyber Munchausen syndrome, where you make somebody need you in their life because of this behavior. Kendra, feeling her parental authority threatened as Lauren grew closer to Owen, allegedly manufactured a crisis. She created a villain so terrifying that Lauren's life began to fall apart. Her grades slipped. She cut off friends, making her completely dependent on her mother once again. This allowed Kendra to play the hero in a drama she wrote, directed, and starred in. But another, darker theory emerged from the evidence. The attacks often centered on Lauren not being good enough for Owen, and court documents revealed that some of the messages sent to the teenage boy were really gross sexual text messages, talking about like cream pies. Furthermore, Kendra would attend Owen's games by herself. According to some family members mentioned in the source, There was a belief that Kendra was grossly attracted to him and deeply jealous of her own daughter. This forces us to ask the most uncomfortable question of all. Was this a desperate mother's cry for attention, or the predatory actions of a deeply disturbed individual fixated on her own daughter's boyfriend? The poisoned well. We ridicule the justice system, often claiming sentences are too light. Facing a mountain of digital evidence, Kendra took a plea deal, pleading guilty to 2 counts of stalking a minor, while other serious charges were dropped. The potential for a 35-year sentence vanished. She received a minimum of 19 months. The disturbing evidence lies not just in the sentence, but in her shocking lack of remorse. When arrested, her excuses were baffling. She claimed she was only trying to coax out the real harasser, and then confessed that she simply got caught up in the thrill of it all, and that things had gotten out of hand. In court, her apology rang hollow, overshadowed by the fact she had asked police to keep her arrest quiet so other parents wouldn't find out. The judge presiding over the case called it truly horrible, stating it was the kind of case that made him glad he was retiring. Kendra served her time and was released on parole in August of 2024, scheduled to be free of supervision in February 2026. Her sentence has a clear end date, but for a daughter betrayed in the most intimate way imaginable, the psychological damage is permanent. Kendra was sentenced to 19 months. Lauren serves a life sentence with a betrayal no one can comprehend. It leaves us with the most terrifying question of all. If you can't trust the person who gave you life, who in the world can you trust? The Kendra license case is a chilling reminder that the deepest betrayals often come from the people we are supposed to trust the most. Here on this channel, we don't just tell stories, we explore the complex psychology behind the headlines that reveal the darker side of human nature. To help us find more people who appreciate this kind of in-depth storytelling, please leave a comment below telling us which detail from this case shocked you the most. And if you want to be part of this community from the very beginning, hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a case. We're just getting started, and your support means everything.